Come on.
This is what I gotta say to the people who are destroying things. If you really feel like you have to take an opportunity, like if you're gonna be an opportunistic, something is wrong with you. If you cannot stand up and fight the good fight and you wanna be a cheater and go ahead and take what we're trying to do, something is wrong with you. Because what we're trying to do is stand up for the basic rights of humanity.
Morning, everybody. It is Monday, June 1st. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
We do. Of course, there's only one story in the entire country, a story that has spread across the entire country, and we're going to cover it from all angles. We have, of course, our commentary on it. We have Nina Turner on to offer her perspective, Zed Jelani, Ryan Grimm as well. So we'll get to all of that, but let's start with just an update on where we are. Protests and rioting has spread across virtually every major city in the entire country, Saagar.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've never had this many cities on curfew since the riots after the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's a solemn event. I mean, I think it was a friend of the show, Kyle Kalinske, who was like, man, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We have 1968 style violence. It just feels like...
And Great Depression layer on top of that.
I've never in my life felt, maybe the Iraq War, that we were living through history. That you, with a very conscious knowledge of like 20 to 30 years, you're going to remember exactly where you were and what was happening than exactly right now. And I think that that's the way that a lot of the country feels. And one of the things that we're kind of tracking here, and I think is both very much on our radar, so to speak, is there's no leadership here. I mean, this has been a complete abdication of leadership, right, left, city, state, local, federal, all the way up the line, all the way down the line. And it's deeply depressing and not only feeds the nihilism of what we see. I mean, you see President Trump, he's been tweeting all weekend, barely in front of the camera. He actually briefly addressed the camera during a great moment, the SpaceX launch, also reminds us of 68. He spoke a little bit about that on, I think it was Saturday. Let's take a listen.
I understand the pain that people are feeling. We support the right of peaceful protesters, and we hear their pleas. But what we are now seeing on the streets of our cities has nothing to do with justice or with peace. The memory of George Floyd is being dishonored by rioters, looters, and anarchists. The violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings.
So you can see there, I mean, the president just going right after Antifa, Bill Barr, same thing, it's all Antifa. I mean, he spoke about George Floyd and all that, but all weekend, it was just like tweeting law and order, or tweeting that this is terrible, or tweeting, I mean, this is not a time for tweets. It's a time for an Oval Office address, decisive leadership, coordinated action from the White House, making sure that every state, local, federal leader in America needs what they want right now. But instead, it is completely divisive. And at the same time, who is the person who's running to replace him? Vice President Joe Biden. And what has he done? Nothing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and the reality is, it's funny because we've heard this sort of stupid refrain throughout the entire Trump presidency, like, when's he going to be a president? Right. When's he going to be a president? This is a time when that actually really matters. And the problem is that even if he came out and said something now, said all the right words now, even Joe Biden came out and said the right word, even Barack Obama, whoever, long before, part of why we have the chaos and conflagration that we have across this country is because there is not one respected national figure to be found.
Yeah.
Not one who would have credibility to come out and direct this energy. I mean, let's be clear. Like, I think we've both talked about, and we're going to talk more in the show, about the context and what caused people to be this pushed up against the wall, and the bad actors who are coming in and taking advantage of it, and the abuses coming from the police. Like, all of that context being said, you really can't even think of this as a movement when there isn't a list of, it's not directed, it's not focused. And I kind of get that on one level, because what is the demand ultimately? Treat us like human beings. See every American as a dignified human being, which is not, a policy plan that you can put on paper. But I think a big part, and something I haven't heard a lot discussed on television, as we've all been glued to, watching what's unfolding before our very eyes, is the fact that there is such a vacuum, such a breakdown even before this moment of trust in any of the institutions of government to be able to deliver for people's lives, of trust in political leaders that they're going to have your best interests at heart. And so, when you see President Trump coming out and let's just blame Antifa without looking at the faces of the normal Americans who are also participating in this, who also feel ready to sort of, put their lives on hold and put their bodies in the street, that abdication of leadership speaks volumes.
Yeah, it's both. I mean, that's what really bothers. I mean, so many people, Trump's biggest supporters, all they want is to see the president actually rise to the occasion, say, hey, look, I hear you. I mean, from the very beginning, he was like, yeah, I think George Floyd was murdered. He expedited the FBI investigation. We praised him here on the show for it. But there also needs to be the commensurate level of trying to bring some semblance of law and order in the streets. And that isn't just about the crackdown. I know that's what, the hardest right people, all their focus, they're like, we want crackdown.
Bring in the military.
You know what? Sure. I think there should be a lot of crackdown. But there also needs to be speaking to the humanity of the people in the street. Nobody gets into the street peacefully. I watched thousands of them this weekend, right past. They walked right by my house. And these are normal people. They believe that an injustice has been done. And I agree with them. And there is nothing wrong with their peaceful right for assembly. That is an American thing. And that needs to be spoken to as well. Yeah. That is what an actual leader can do. And fine, you know what? If Trump's not going to do it, then shouldn't his rival try to do it? But no. I mean, Joe Biden waited until like 12 a.m. in the morning.
Joe Biden is irrelevant.
He's irrelevant.
I mean, honestly, if he came out, it doesn't matter what he says, because he doesn't have any moral credibility or standing in this situation either. And so that is a big part. I mean, ultimately, we have voices who aren't in elected leadership who have some of the greatest moral clarity and some of the greatest standing. One of the things we wanted to highlight here is Killer Mike, of course, who was associated with Bernie Sanders' campaign, who has that type of voice of moral clarity coming out. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I'm mad as hell. I woke up wanting to see the world burn down yesterday because I'm tired of seeing black men die. He casually put his knee on a human being's neck for 9 minutes as he died like a zebra in the clutch of a lion's jaw. And we watch it like murder porn over and over again. So that's why children are burning to the ground. They don't know what else to do. And it is the responsibility of us to make this better right now. We don't want to see one officer charged. We want to see 4 officers prosecuted and sentenced. We don't want to see targets burning. We want to see the system that sets up for systemic racism burnt to the ground.
And I think what he put in context, very well said, and you see the passion as he called for ultimately nonviolence, but he expresses the rage and understanding the rage and where it's coming from and wanting it to be directed in the right way.
Yeah, and I think that is a responsibility incumbent upon all of our elected leaders. And I think, I would love to see the President of the United States actually step forward and fill this vacuum, because this has got to be one of the biggest abdications that I've ever seen.
If you just use this as an excuse, and this isn't just directed at President Trump, to inflame a culture war, you're in a position of power, you're doing a tremendous disservice.
Absolutely. Right or left. Don't cherry pick.
All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That's next.